What exactly are the new features in R77? Well, my friend, you've come to the right place. Let's begin. Our objectives for you and I in this MicroNugget are really simple. We're going to take a look at some of the new features that Check Point has added into release 77 of their software. Now, the great news is this. All of the core content that's available in R76, we're simply adding on additional functionality with R77. The first piece I'd like to share with you is this threat emulation service. Now, let's say, for example, we have Bob. Bob is a user. He's pretty conscientious. He's signed the acceptable use policy, only does what he should, and he happens to be visiting a website and downloading a file. Maybe it's a PDF file. We could have a PDF file that has malware embedded inside of it. Wouldn't it be awesome if this firewall right here could stop that on its way down so Bob never got it on his machine? Well, the answer is with threat emulation service we can. So we already have inside of Check Point, we have an intrusion prevention system, and the threat emulation service takes it one step further. And that can help protect the company against a zero-day attack by instantly blocking malware. And that could be in email attachments or, in this case, as Bob is trying to download a file that has malicious content in it. So by having IPS and this threat emulation service, it gives us more protection than IPS alone. Another really cool feature, a licensed software blade, is called the Compliance Blade. And it can help us in identifying potential security breaches and vulnerabilities, as well as provide practical guidelines. Let's say, for example, we have the admin sitting at the smart dashboard and making policy changes. And let's say accidentally he puts a really lenient rule like permit any at the very top of the rule base. And then we're about to push it out. Wouldn't it be great if somebody stopped him and said, hey, whoa, are you sure you want to do that? That seems like a really bad idea. Well, that's the kind of stuff the Compliance Blade can assist us in doing. So in addition to helping us avoid a very serious mistake like this one, it can also assess the compliance and security posture across Check Point software blades, as well as make recommendations to improve security and compliance. So even in a network environment where you have an administrator who's very experienced, it never hurts to be reminded of best practices and things to check for. Another really cool feature is the Centralized Gaia management. Now, Gaia is the underlying operating system that's running on our gateways and on the management platform. And in the past, what we'd have to do if we wanted to go and change, for example, the IP address on a gateway or change the DNS or other details, we'd have to open up a web browser directly to that gateway to make those changes. New with R77, we can now do that through Smart Dashboard. And by doing it in Smart Dashboard, we don't have to open up another direct session to those gateways. So in a large environment, this could save us a boatload of time. They've also incorporated methods for licensing and updates to make it more seamless and more transparent, which translates to using less of the administrator's time in performing updates as they're needed. Another really cool feature that Check Point offers is called identity awareness, and that allows us to set up rules to allow traffic and track traffic based on user identities. So for example, when Bob wants to go out to the internet to a certain site, we can control that access based on his user ID, and in the log files, we can do specific searches based on who went to the website at a certain time. So in R77, in addition to using traditional methods like LDAP, we can also go ahead and now use Radius as a source for identities for identity awareness, which is also pretty darn cool. So with R77, if we have those software licenses to enable them, we'd simply go to the firewalls we want to deploy them on. For example, we have a corporate gateway here in this demo mode, and make sure that we check this box that says I want to enable threat emulation, that software blade. So once our firewalls are enabled for that feature, to manage our policy, we'd go up to Threat Prevention, select that. So here's the overview page for threat prevention. So I've currently got 3 security gateways that are enforcing anti-bot, antivirus, or threat emulation. And we can simply scroll up and down to see that list and exactly which services are enabled. And over here, this is so cool. It shows us the top 3 attack sources in our network. And this, by the way, is in demo mode in Smart Dashboard. This is not a live feed. We've also got an option right here called the Threat Wiki, so we can dive right into a malware attack and find out more information about that malware and the details of it. And to configure our policy, we'd simply click on Policy to configure those details. For our centralized management of some of the basic Gaia operating system features, we are going to go down to our gateway objects. Now we can do that from the threat prevention or firewall. We're really just dealing with the object itself. If we double click on a gateway object, and if we wanted to change the IP address of an interface, we'd simply click on the topology link in the left-hand side on the tree, And from here, if we want to change the IP address of Ethernet 2, you highlight it, and we click on Edit, and we make our changes, and we simply click on OK after making those changes. Other details related to Gaia on this gateway can also be managed if we expand the topology link, and if we want to add new static routes or change the default route, we could do so by clicking on Edit of an existing route, or we could click on New and simply add a new route. And under Network Services, we could do things such as adding a new DNS server for this gateway to go ahead and use. And this is an example of the Gaia operating system management that we can now do in Dashboard that previously was not available in R76 and older. The other feature that is new to R77 is that for identity awareness. Let's grab this corporate gateway one more time. From the tree on the left, if we select identity awareness, you'll notice that we now have, as an additional identity source, we have radius accounting, in addition to browser-based authentication, Active Directory query, or potentially software agents that are running. So the last feature I'd like to share with you in the update to R77 is the compliant software blade. On the overview page, it shows us overall how we're doing, and that's across 18 gateways that are using 11 different blades. If we scroll down a little bit, here it's showing us of 491 regulatory requirements that are currently being monitored. How are we doing? Which is really, really cool. And if we go to security best practices, it's basically a checklist of all those things that we should be doing. So we might, for example, take a look at this one and just verify that archive scanning and antivirus is enabled, because at the moment it's indicating our status is low, as in low security regarding that item. And that's a very huge list that we can go through. And by clicking on the status column, we can actually sort it. So if we wanted to go and focus on where we had a low status and work on those first, we certainly could. Also, if we wanted to go into each individual gateway and say, you know what, corporate gateway, let's take a look at the details of you, it will show us on that specific gateway regarding those items that we ought to go ahead and take a look at. For example, on this gateway, we don't have a cleanup rule at the very bottom that gives us an opportunity to do logging on all denied traffic that isn't explicitly matched somewhere else in that rule base. It's asking us to check about anti-spoofing. In fact, if we scroll down on Corporate Gateway 1, we're going to see that we do have some stuff set up correctly on there, but there is room for improvement. So it's checklists like this that can give us an awareness of things that we might want to do more proactively to help fortify our network. Also, as we select each of these in the checklist, down below it's going to go ahead and give us an overview regarding that item, what the status is for our gateways regarding that item, and over here, more details on exactly why that item is important. I appreciate you joining me. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.